A very good afternoon, Team Zimbabwe. Maswera say. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to the much anticipated or awaited elections in the nation of Zimbabwe. Remember, elections were not done properly in the nation of Zimbabwe, as per the SADC report, as well as per the opposition claims and reports. So there was speculation that elections are supposed to re-happen or to be redone in the nation of Zimbabwe so as to correct the mess which was created in the past elections. And we have been doing a follow-up onto this matter, and severally we have concluded that SADC has failed to honor its obligation. They failed to follow its procedures or their procedures in terms of dealing with the situation of Zimbabwe. We gave several examples within the region where they acted upon electoral disputes, and they once did so in Zimbabwe around 2008. And Thabo Mbeki, the former president of South Africa, also stressed the same point and say that SADC was supposed to address this issue and make sure that a lasting solution is found. So as it stands right now, the legitimacy is which is in Zimbabwe is just a protocol legitimacy, type of legitimacy, but it's not a legal one. Anytime things might change, tables might turn. And I always explain to the people of Zimbabwe to say, even if SADC does not manage to push for the fresh elections to happen in Zimbabwe, they know for sure that this matter is going to continuously haunt them. They will be praying each and every day for the worst not to happen, because when the worst starts to happen in the nation of Zimbabwe, SADC will never have a moral standing or a moral ground to come into Zimbabwe and instruct things or to tell how things should happen in the nation of Zimbabwe. They won't be able to sanction anybody if things go in a different direction. For example, if we have a repeat of November 2017 in Zimbabwe, if we are to have a repeat of it will be very difficult for SADC to intervene. It will be very difficult for SADC to correct that mess. But let us hear a representative of SADC, what a representative of SADC said when they were here in Zimbabwe. Then I will give you my own views and insights after that story.
Zimbabwe will be taking over as the chairperson of SADC, taking over from Angola. So that will happen in August this year. So we've come to meet with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are our hosts. So we are going to start working on the preparations for the hosting of this summit, which will be preceded by a number of meetings, like the council meetings and industrialization week, where we're going to also invite the private sector to be part of the process. So it's a preparatory meeting, and after that, nearer the time, we'll come again as SADC to come and check the state of preparedness of the country. Like I indicated, I'm a Deputy Secretary in charge of Corporate Affairs, and the purpose of this mission is the summit. So that's the area that we're focusing on. And the elections and the summit are completely two different things, so we don't discuss those issues. So Zimbabwe will be taking over as the chairperson.
So what is very important to note is that during this address, there is a point which she made that their agenda and their role is to come into Zimbabwe to see how prepared Zimbabwe is when it comes to taking over formally as the next chair of SADC. And it's very important for us to take note that that does not mean elections cannot happen. That does not mean the elections will happen or will not happen. What it means is this is a team with its own obligation to come and see how prepared Zimbabwe is. So they will need reports. I'm trying to find that piece with information right here from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I hope that I will be able to find it. But Zimbabwe, we have to submit a report. So right now, they are giving Zimbabwe the guidelines for it to assume the chairmanship of SADC. And Zimbabwe, we have to give a report suggesting that they are prepared or they are not prepared to assume leadership of SADC. And if they fail to meet the guidelines provided right here by this advanced team, then you know that Zimbabwe will have to meet those obligations. One of the requirements, and something very important, one of the requirements is that Zimbabwe is required to have met all the resolutions made against it at SADC level. So I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to maneuver and make it happen. But that is very, very, very important. So this is a letter which was issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It speaks about the team will provide Zimbabwe with guidelines based on SADC minimum standards regarding the obligations when hosting the summit. Zimbabwe will be provided with the opportunity to present reports on the state of preparedness towards hosting the summit in Harare in August 2024. So the minimum standards regarding the obligations, Zimbabwe must be meeting the minimum standard obligations of SADC. For example, SADC issued a statement about Zimbabwe elections, and a team was supposed to come to Zimbabwe. They will need to provide a report on the reasons why this team has not come to do its duty or to do its job. So it depends with what that response, how SADC is going to accept that report, and all those issues around such things. So it depends with how toothless SADC is or truthful SADC is when it comes onto implementing its resolutions. So the resolutions of SADC are that the elections which were held in Zimbabwe were not free, fair, and credible, which means they can't be washed away just like that. They know that this is a crisis which is looming in Zimbabwe, and if things change, they will not have an upper hand, or they will not be able to control the situation in Zimbabwe. And the reason why this team has come to Zimbabwe, you will see that these are people, this is a team led by a Zimbabwean. Why is it a Zimbabwean is leading? It's because of Zimbabwe's dictatorial tendencies which they have within the SADC. They are the headmaster or the prefect of other SADC countries and everything. They do what they want. They call the shots. So there is a great possibility that they called their own member to come and attend that meeting in Zimbabwe for a reason. Most importantly, to make sure that Zimbabweans stop thinking about the elections, so that the people of Zimbabwe forgets about SADC intervening and they look ahead. Saka, you see that this issue is so disheartening. It's something very difficult to actually understand what's going on, because SADC has not followed the rightful protocol to make sure that they deal with the electoral crisis in the nation of Zimbabwe. However, as I always say, the power about the next decision in Zimbabwe will not come from SADC. The power comes from the power makers. As I always said, I have talked about the power makers, and I can tell you that decisions shall be made by the power makers. And once the power makers makes a decision, nobody is going to disagree with such a decision, because these are the last hope for the people of Zimbabwe. Once a decision is made by the power makers, then you see things starting to happen in the nation of Zimbabwe. So they've reached an agreement on what needs to be done on Zimbabwe, but they are simply waiting for the right time for that thing to be executed. Remember, everything happens on its own time, and you will see the nation of Zimbabwe being delivered. So let us remain hopeful and trust in God.